Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cool Sports Guy. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett. How are you doing today, Jarrett?
Doing pretty good, coming off of a solo picks episode, which was a little different, but
Yeah, sorry I had to miss last week, but anyone who tuned in, Jarrett did an awesome job. There were a couple of times where you're like, I don't really understand this pick. If Tom was here, he could have explained. I could have explained. And listen, last week, well, up until the games last week, I could have explained. Now that the games are over, I can't explain because that was probably my worst week ever. But we're not, past that. We're past that. I was supposed to wear my Mike White jersey because I don't have a Joe Flacco one, but represent the Jets because they won the week before. They did not win last week, but you know what? Still got to represent. I still had to put it on twice a year. Jets get to win, and I have to put on my awesome Mike White jersey that Jared had to buy me last year because
no, you had to
we
buy yourself because your
oh,
luck
that's
was
right.
so
That's right.
bad.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Who's the last man standing in the survivor pick?
I mean, that's fair. I only lasted 2 weeks, so
But hey, you know what? It's all in the past now. We are officially towards the end of the first quarter of the season, which is week 4. So we're gonna dig right in, and we're gonna go through our picks one more time. So hopefully, all of us, because we haven't been very hot. We've been mediocre at best. Last week was the worst. I think I had like 6 wins and 10 losses. So we're gonna try to bounce back here this week. I'm sure there's gonna be some questionable picks, especially from our colleague Jose. But let's dig right into it. So here we go. NFL Week 1. Once again, Jared, thank you so much for putting these slides together. And for those of you that are watching, I'm thanking him now. So in case there are any mistakes that we catch, we know who to
there
blame.
probably will be. Last week there was a mistake last week, and I just like froze when I saw it because it's like, well, I don't know what to do now. So it's just there.
It's okay. If it's any consolation, I just want you to remember the time where we rated the quarterbacks, and I had 6
7
different
Mac Joneses
QBs.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
Mac Jones. So there you go. Who now? According to Bill Belichick, it's day by day. According to the rest of the population in the entire wide world, he's probably just going to miss a couple of games. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But going in, so first week is Vikings versus Saints. So let's see. Oh, didn't know
Well,
you had that up there already. Hey, listen, I picked.
I don't know what happened to the other slide. That was the gap, but
slide 2. There's
listen, I'm a college student. I don't have
Sorry.
all the free time. I'm tired.
It's all
I
right.
make mistakes, but it's
I
fine.
can confidently say we didn't have any of this last year, so I love it. It's great. So, well, listen, I'm going first, and clearly, I picked the Vikings to win. Vikings are good. I just think that they obviously suck during prime time, but this is not a prime time game, and they're playing the Saints, and Saints are also, in my opinion, not very good. Now, you send me a little, I guess, whatever it was from Dennis Allen
Yeah.
saying it's the greatest QB ever, Taysom Hill's actually practicing. I don't see much coming out of it. I think Vikings are a really good team. And just like they beat Lions last week, even though it's a game that I feel like the Lions gave away rather than the Vikings winning it, but I got the Vikings winning it. They picked the
Okay, well,
Saints.
there's Jose's.
Okay, there's Jose's. There's just your turn
See,
now.
these are some of the bizarre things I'm talking about.
That's all right.
My thing with the Saints, I was high on them going into the year. I think I made that pretty known, and I was high on Jameis Winston. Apparently, Jameis Winston has some injury that I don't know. Not really sure what's going on. But he's playing through it, and he's obviously not playing very well, and they are not playing good as a team because of it. Hence why I guess Taysom Hill's getting snaps at quarterback in practice. Uh, until Jameis Winston kind of proves to me that he can be a competent quarterback, I'm not going to pick them to beat a good team like the Vikings. And I know Justin Jefferson has my prediction of him being offensive player of the year, 2,000 yards isn't looking pretty given he's been shut down 2 straight weeks. But I think he can turn it around, and I think the Vikings are going to have a bounce back week and beat the New Orleans Saints here.
All right. So there's our first disagreement. Well, not ours, but Jose disagrees, which we always love to see. Moving on to the next game. So Seahawks traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. So Seahawks, week 1. I think you get to pick here. So I'm gonna let you talk about that first.
Okay, listen. Geno Smith, love the guy. One of my favorite quotes of all time. But they're not a good team. He's not a good quarterback. The Lions, I know that they kind of blew the lead against Minnesota last week, but the Lions are a competitive, hard-fighting team, and I want to see them succeed. I don't care if they're a division rival. I will root for the Lions, and I want them to win this game. And I think with the talent they have, they should win this game. I think it comes down to coaching. I know Pete Carroll is kind of past his prime in his coaching, but he's still a relatively good coach. Dan Campbell has some questions. They play hard for him, but when it comes down to like actually coaching to win games, that's when the questions arise. Hence them blowing a lead last week. But I do think the Lions are a much, much better team than the Seahawks here, and I would be very surprised if the Lions did not win. So I'm going to pick the Lions here.
Sorry, Mike got muted there. I apologize. Well, I mean, you already know week 1, I pick against the Lions, and then I finished Hard Knocks. I haven't picked against the Lions since. Fun fact.
That's fair. Still haven't caught
But-
Hard Knocks yet, but
But you know what though? I as much as it seems like I'm only picking them just because it's them, I felt pretty good about my picks. So whenever I picked the Lions, so I had to go with the Lions here. Listen, Seahawks again. Week 1, Geno Smith fooled me a little. He outplayed Russell Wilson, but little did we know it's not him outplaying Russell Wilson. It's Russell Wilson was just playing garbage football. So once again, I have to go. I have to go with the Lions. I think they fight hard, they play good, and I think they're just gonna win the game. It's that simple. So hey, Jose also picked the Lions. There you go. I'm surprised he didn't pick somebody like the Seahawks. It seems like something Jose would do.
I mean, it's obviously working for him given the records of the weeks. But Jose, I don't know. He predicts the upsets because he picks the most outlandish pick for every single game. But yeah, moving on. Jets Steelers.
All right. So Jets to Steelers. I think it's me, right? I'm picking. There you go. It's Steelers. So yeah, I picked the Steelers again. Very straightforward on this pick. I both of these teams have kind of disappointed me from the get go. I think Steelers should have beat. Well, I thought the Steelers were going to beat the Browns, and the Browns just had their field day with them. Jets, listen, again, representing that they're 1 win. They're not going to be due for another win for probably another 6 weeks or so. You mentioned Zach Wilson's back, but we're not even sure if he's going to play. But I think regardless of who's going to play this game, I think the Steelers, they obviously did not do very well last week. So Mike Tomlin's going to get that team ready. They're going to come back and they're going to play hard. Plus, just because Jets won a crazy game, again, once does not make them a good football team. I refuse to until they prove otherwise, I refuse to believe that they're a good football team.
My opinion here, I went with my pick. I went under the impression Zach Wilson plays, and I really like Zach Wilson. I was not high on him last year, and then one of my buddies was like, "Go back, watch the tape. It'll change your mind." And so I did, and I went back and watched like the later half of the season from Zach Wilson. He kind of turned it around and looked really nice. With that being said, though, he's still a young quarterback. And, Mike Tomlin, I know that their defense with like TJ Watt injured and stuff, that it's not as dominant as it has been. But, Mike Tomlin's always been one of those coaches that take advantage of young quarterbacks. And with that being said, with Zach Wilson just now coming back from an injury, I think he can take advantage of it. And so I also went with the Steelers to win the game.
All right.
This is what I'm talking about. The outlandish picks.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, so again, we'll kind of ask Jose about this later as far as to what made him pick the New York Jets to win this game. Maybe it's the fact that it's an away game for an already trash football team. All right, that's got to be the only explanation here. All right, so and just listen, not trying to throw shade here. This is why Jose was out week 1 from the survival pool pick. So, all right, we're gonna move on to the next game. So, Chicago Bears traveling to take on the Giants. I think I'm going here first.
I guess I messed up all of the slides. I'm gonna apologize for that in advance. Yeah.
It's all
So,
right.
so for the
So
viewers, it's supposed to say Tom's pick and then not change and then switch to his pick. I don't know what happened to the slides in between. I guess I'll take blame for that. I don't remember deleting any slides, but they're no longer there. So we make do with what we have, and
listen, again, it's not like it's a top secret that I often pick against the Giants, so it just does not hurt my feelings whatsoever. Here's the thing. I want to say two things. So number one is I am the biggest hater of Daniel Jones. I think most people know that. I have zero faith in him. This what I'm about to say does not necessarily change how I view Daniel Jones as a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But I watched a lot of the Cowboys Giants game last week, and I just gotta say, get this man an O line. This guy is getting pressured up and down almost every drop back, and it was sad to watch. And the first person to point this out was actually one of my close friends, diehard Giants fan. His name's Graham. Hi, Graham. He's the one who pointed it out when I talked trash about Daniel Jones. He's like, "Nope, get the guy in no line." I was like, no, it's Daniel Jones." But no, I kept watching the game, and then I realized, oh my god, okay, he does need an offensive line. Now, am I still gonna pick the Giants to win a lot of games? No, I'm not. Not when even if they have an offensive line, when Daniel Jones is the quarterback, I still think he sucks. I'm sorry, but it's true. I think he has moments where he's really good, and then he evens it out with moments where he just has the worst play on the field. So I have the Bears winning this game. I don't think the Bears are as great as you think they are.
I don't
Actually,
think they're
no, that's
great
not
at
true.
all.
Yeah,
But
you don't think they're great. But surprisingly enough, I've actually picked the Bears to win more games than I thought so far. I think I picked them 3 weeks. Actually, last week, I know we didn't do the Survivor pool anymore because I was the only one left. I actually picked the Bears as my Survivor pool pick against the Texans. So technically, if we were doing it, I would still be alive. Nonetheless, I think the Bears are they have a better quarterback for sure. They do have a pretty solid defense that can go good enough to go after Daniel Jones, and I think those are the two recipes. That's all it takes to beat them. So that's unfortunately, I think the Giants are going to lose.
that is fair. That is very fair. This is slightly off topic, but Daniel Jones reminds me a lot of Mitch Trubisky, where he has like the physical tools to be a good quarterback, and he makes some really flash plays that happen sometimes. But I feel like he's not great at reading defenses or getting past like the first read, and he makes some of the dumbest decisions you've ever seen in your entire life. And yeah, so basically, Daniel Jones is like the new Mitch.
He played very well last week with what I think the numbers were decided. Like it lies to you a little bit. I think even that game-ending interception, his receiver, I forgot who he was throwing the ball
Um,
to.
it was the former West Virginia quarterback whose name I cannot remember.
He
I
fell. I know that he fell on the route, like he slipped and fell on the route. And Jones actually had a really good throw. It was picked off, unfortunately, but I think the numbers lie a little bit. I think again he played really well last week, but hey, can you do that consistently? I don't think so.
Listen, Daniel Jones. I will say I'm not high on him either. I think you might be the only person who like dislikes him more than I do. But I will say that game against the Cowboys. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest game, and stats wise, it wasn't his best game. But that was one of the best games I've seen him play. And I do think he's definitely taken maybe not a huge leap forward, but he's definitely taken a step forward with Dayball at coach, and I think it's been impressive. I still think they need to move on and find a better quarterback this offseason or something. With that being said, I still listen. Bears fans have turned on Justin Fields so fast; they already want him gone. Like he started like 12 or 13 games, and they already think he's a bust. Like that's ridiculous to me. Justin Fields has all the physical tools. I think what is happening right now is he's a little too much in his head about what's going on. And once he gets out of that funk and kind of like gets into and plays like he knows he can, I think he'll take that giant leap forward that I'm expecting. Regardless of quarterback, I think these two teams are very evenly matched. They're both 2-1 somehow. They're probably like the two worst 2-1 teams of all time, but it's pretty bizarre. They're like, they both have a new head coach. They both have pretty solid defenses. I have a question mark at quarterback. They both have pretty weak wide receiver cores, especially now that Sterling Shepard's injured. And they both have really good running backs when you consider like Saquon, or if you want to say Montgomery or Khalil Herbert had a really good game last week. They're very evenly matched teams. I could go either way with this, and I think it's a fair like assessment to go either way. But obviously, since I'm biased, I'm going to go with the Bears here. I've picked them every single week, and I will continue to pick them every single week.
All right. And Jose picked the New York Giants to win the football game, which, hey, you know what? I know he likes to pick some bizarre picks, but like you said, this game might be closer than we think. I just have a hard time picking the Giants in this game. But at least he picked the home team this week, so good enough. Titans and Colts. Man, it's your pick because I don't know where to start on this one.
Oh, it didn't cut straight to it this time.
I know. Good job.
Look, it was only like 3 slides. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Both of these teams I thought were super. Well, I wouldn't say good. I wasn't high on the Titans, but I was very high on the Colts. I was hyping them up as like a dark horse contender. And I know you really like them too because you're high on Matt Ryan. I don't know what they were doing the first 2 weeks, and then they just randomly beat the Chiefs for some reason. Big question marks. I don't know what that team is right now. I think we're still too early in the season to know what that team is. On the other side, the Titans, I think we don't know exactly what they are, but we do know that they're a bad team. Derrick Henry, I kind of predicted this. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast. I did mention it on social media, and Titans fans hated me for it. There would be things like who is the most likely like superstar to regress going into this season, and I always said it was probably going to be Derrick Henry because he's not old, but he's getting up there in age for a running back. He gets a high level of carries. Like he basically like doubles the next closest person in carries, and that's why he got it's probably why he got hurt last year. When you get that many carries, you're bound to get injured. And this year he hasn't been bad by any means. He's still been a very good running back, but I feel like so far this season, he hasn't really shown that like elite running back level yet. And the Colts, I feel like have a super good defense. It's very underrated. Even if when Eberflus left, they still have a good defense that forces fumbles, turns the ball over a lot. And I feel like if you shut down Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill's not a quarterback who can go out there and win games for you. That receiver core isn't great, and the defense has so many injuries, and it's not even super great to begin with. So I went with the Colts here.
All right. So yeah, I same thing. Colts are disappointing the crap out of me, but of course I want to say they pulled out a win last week, but I think the Chiefs just kind of lost a game last week is what is probably the more accurate term to put it by. But listen, Titans have equally been disappointing in my opinion, and I think in reality, Matt Ryan just got there, and it took a few games for him to kind of warm up and get a feel for his team. And I think that's all it was. I picked the Colts to go. I want to say it was all the way to the AFC Championship game initially. I don't necessarily see that happening at this pace, but I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to bounce back, and I think they're going to play good. The game is in Indy. It's a division game. It's an important game, and I think the Colts are going to pull one out. And I think even though, again, I think as much as Kansas City kind of shot themselves in the foot to lose that game last week, their first game at home was a win against a Super Bowl contender, and I think that's definitely going to build on some momentum for the Colts, and I can definitely see the Colts pulling one out here. So I got the Colts too, and there you go. Finally, Jose's got the Colts as well. So yay, there you go. Have you and I disagreed so far? I don't think we have
I
we?
Can't think of one. No, I think it's just been Jose picking the obscure ones.
Fair enough. All right. So Chargers at Texans. I think it's my pick. Hey.
I don't know why yours are like that. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I don't mind it. So I was very close to picking the Texans actually because again, Chargers. I think Justin Herbert probably needs to heal a little. Last week was kind of hard to watch. They got destroyed. But again, listen, I am feeling so good about the freaking Jacksonville Jaguars right now because I think Doug Peters is going to actually win Coach of the Year, and that team is actually really good. Well, they're pretty good, and hopefully they'll continue to build on the momentum they have. They annihilated the Chargers last week, and I think they will continue to do so, but we'll see what happens there. I was very close to picking the Texans in this game, but again, the Texans go out of their way to find ways to disappoint their fans. Exhibit A, Colts at Texans, you have like a 17-point lead, and then you let the team climb all the way back up, and then you don't even lose. You end up in a tie. I don't know how you did that. In overtime, by the way. And then you were actually playing pretty solid against the Bears. You had the chance at the end. Yeah, I see the smile on your face. You had the chance at the end to win the game. And even though the Bears were my survivor pick, I was like, man, we just go in. You're right there. You just got to go get there. I think they were just a field goal away and throws a pick. They find ways to lose games. And until they fix that, I'm not going to have much faith in the Texans. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here.
I think that's very fair. The Texans. Okay, I'll start with the Chargers. Actually, that's where I'll start. The Chargers, I feel so bad for them and their fans. I know they're known to not have that many fans, but I feel bad. Listen, every year there's at least one team, there's usually a couple, and it's usually the 49ers, that just get absolutely like demolished by injuries and it kind of ruins their season. Last year, I know it was the Ravens. The Ravens lost like all three starting running backs with torn ACLs before the regular season even started. And this year, it seems like it's going to be the Chargers, sadly. I know Herbert's playing, but he's banged up. You have Bosa is just got placed on IR, so he's out at least 4 weeks. They said it's probably going to be a while. The Jalen Guyton just tore his ACL. Keenan Allen's been banged up. There's injuries all over that team, and they're pretty key pieces that are the ones that are injured, which is not a good look. On the flip side of things, they are playing the Texans this week. I will say I think Herbert probably needs to rest. I think playing through the injury is not going to be great in the long run. Rest up. You may lose a few games, but you'll have your quarterback back and healthy, which is more important. But the Texans, honestly, watching them play the Bears, their running game is very solid. Don't get me wrong, but I honestly like lost confidence in them because, hear me out, they played the Bears, which are not a very good team to begin with. They're like very very average at best. Um, and Justin Fields, who I think Justin Fields, I still think he's the answer. But they played a game against Justin Fields, who had so bad of a game that an entire fan base turned on the only glimmer of hope they have as a franchise because of that one game, and they still didn't win is bizarre to me. Yeah, it's bizarre that I don't know, Bears fans are the most feisty people ever. We're 2-1 right now, and they're acting like Justin Fields is a bust and it's the end of the world. But yeah, if you go against a quarterback who has that bad of a game and you still don't win, that's not a good sign. I will say the Texans did keep it close, and then at the end they had a chance to go win it, and then Davis Mills threw a pick. Wasn't really his fault. He got bad at the line, but still, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Texans, and I'm going to go with the Chargers here as well.
All right. And Jose, for this has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he is, a Texans fan. Pick the Texans to win because he believes Davis Mills is way better than broken rib Justin Herbert.
I don't know. He picked the Bears to beat the Texans last week.
Man's weird. Love it. All right. So Browns at Falcons. This is, what's your pick? Go ahead.
Listen. I did. Yeah. See, look, there's the wrong team name. We're not going to talk about it. Just act like it says Browns at Falcons.
Hey,
It was bound to happen. I did this at like 2:00 in the morning last night. So, but anyways, so last week when the Jaguars beat the Chargers and the Dolphins beat the Bills, which I did predicted both of those games wrong, mind you. I had texted in the group chat and I was like, I need to start trusting my gut. Like, I feel like I just go for who I think the genuinely better team is instead of just going with who I think can win based on my gut. And so I have decided, since my record's so bad this year, anyways, I'm gonna go with my gut. That's how I'm gonna turn things around and get a much better record. You know, I think the Browns have a great running game. Their defense is banged up. Myles Garrett, luckily he is okay, but he was in a car accident a couple days ago, I believe. He might play, he might not. I don't know. Wish him the best of health. Don't get me wrong; like that's a scary situation. But even if he doesn't play, that Jadeveon Clowney on the other side, I think, is also banged up. So they have some injuries to that defense. The Falcons, on the other hand, I love that offense. Minus quarterback, I think Mariota he's done decent per se, but Cordell Patterson looks like a top 10 running back right now. Drake London looks like he's like an early running for offensive rookie of the year. Kyle Pitts still hasn't really like been there this season, which is bizarre to me, but their offense has done well regardless. And I think that their offense, I don't know. Again, I don't have a very good analysis for this, but it's just my gut feeling is telling me to pick the Falcons. So I did go with the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Browns here. I also want to mention I just kind of have this weird bitter hatred for the Browns. I've kind of mentioned it before. I really hate Deshaun Watson and I hate the Watson situation. And so I kind of have this like, maybe it's my guts just telling me to pick against the Browns rather than pick for the Falcons, but I'm doing it regardless and I'm picking the Falcons.
that's fair. So I went with the Browns. I didn't think that was going to happen. I went with the Browns, and listen. So I get it. I don't like the Deshaun Watson situation either. I try to pick against the Browns as much as possible, but I still don't have much faith in the Falcons. And also, the Browns. Can we give some credit to Jacoby Brissett real quick?
I'll give him his credit. He has done a solid job.
I mean, listen, Steelers, even without TJ Watt, is a pretty good defense. And he moved the ball up and down the field on them quite a bit last week. He did a good job. And I think if you can do that against the Steelers defense, you can do that against the Falcons defense. And at the end of the day, as much as, again, just like you, I want to hate the Browns. I think the Browns are doing a good job coaching wise. I think they have a solid defense. I think they have a solid run game. And again, Jacoby Brissett is not, by any means like a top 10 quarterback or anything, but he is definitely doing enough on his end to help the team and not hurt the team. So I have a hard time picking against him. It was a closer pick than I make it seem, I would say, but I think the Browns are going to pull this off. And I hate to say it because if they're winning now without Watson, they could be a pretty good team when he's back. So, so we'll see what happens. But yes, I have to go with the Browns, and so did Jose. All right, cool.
That trust my gut. It's gonna work out. Just
Hey,
believe.
that's it. You gotta trust. Gotta believe. Commanders at the Cowboys. Well, here's the number one question again. Here.
I really don't even have an answer for you anymore. I don't know why it's doing.
I show faith in you every time I click that button, and then I'm like, oh, maybe he'll get it right next time. It's
I
all
usually
right.
make the
Listen,
slides, and it's not this bad, so I don't
it's
know.
okay. These I'm picking my NFC Championship appearing team, the Dallas Cowboys. And Washington Commanders, one more time, ask per usual, hey, which Carson Wentz are you going to get this time? So far, we haven't gotten the best of Carson Wentz. Most teams that's played him has gotten the best of him. They're not a good team. They just aren't. That team isn't doing anything. They were not a good team last year. They were not a good team the year before. I'm sorry, but it's true. And the Cowboys, even with Cooper Rush playing, you got to give that defense some credit. You got to give that offense a lot of credit too, because your star quarterback is out, and yet you have a backup quarterback who, again, much like Jacoby Brissett, he's not doing anything crazy to stand out so much, but he's definitely doing enough to not hurt the team and help the team just enough to win the game. The game's in Dallas. The Commanders are not very good. I had to go with the Cowboys, even with the backup quarterback playing.
I will say, I think this might sound bizarre, but I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like Cooper Rush is playing himself into a pretty big contract right now. There's always those teams that just sign backups who played well when they had to play to massive contracts. You know, there was Matt Flynn, Mike Glennon, Tavarius Jackson. It always happens. It's always a thing. And I feel like Cooper Rush is Brock Osweiler is another really good one. I think Cooper Rush is going to be the next one. I'm not saying he's as bad as those guys, but I think he's earned himself into a pretty good backup quarterback contract, or maybe even a team takes a chance on him. I mean, Mariota got a starting quarterback shot this year, so anything's possible. I think that, he may have earned that, and he has played really well. I've bet against him quite a lot. And, he is, what is he, like 3-0 as a starter now, which is bizarre. And so you can go ahead and throw up the star on the page, because I'm going with the Cowboys in this one as well. The Commanders, not a very good team. They looked good week 1 and won that game, but that was when you got the good Carson Wentz. But it's been nothing but bad Carson Wentz ever since. And last week, I think he got sacked like 8 times in the first half or something bizarre like that.
Well, I mean, if it's fair to say that, hey, Jose picked the Cowboys too, by the way. But if it's fair to say that that Carson Wentz is going to win a game every 4 weeks, 3 weeks.
Well, we don't know yet because he's only won the one, so we have to wait till he wins the second.
That's fair. Well, we can go off of last year, right? How many did they win?
The Colts won 8 or 9, I think. They were right outside the playoffs.
So against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That's fine. So what were we going to say?
I was just going to say, you don't know what Wentz you're going to get, but it's been nothing but bad Wentz this year. I mean, even week 1, he was good, but he wasn't like anything special. He was a capable quarterback to win a game, and that was his best week so far. So, not looking pretty.
Here's what I will say. I will say that it's always a safe bet to bet against Carson Wentz, because he is, especially these days, bad more days than he is good. So, you bet the same amount every week, you're going to have more at the end of the season than you're going to have less. So you're good to go there. But hey, talk about the team that beat the Colts to not make the playoffs last year. Jacksonville Jaguars are traveling to Philadelphia. Can't talk today, to take on the Eagles. So is it me first? Do I dare to click? Oh, it's you first.
I don't know why mine are all like fine and it's just yours, but this one was very tough for me, which sounds bizarre because the Eagles look like debatably the best team in football right now. But Trevor Lawrence, I know it's really early into this season and he looks relatively bad last year, but I think he's already, like, in a sense, already proven he's that franchise quarterback. He's looked really good. He got a capable coach in the offseason and has looked tremendous. Even Christian Kirk still is not worth the $20 million a year they paid him or whatever, but he's looked like a solid receiver. Zay Jones has been pretty good. The running back's name is escaping me. Robinson. Can't think of his first name. Forgive me. He has looked super good. Why is my brain blanking out so much? Lord. Travis Etienne, the other running back, I have him in fantasy and he hasn't looked as good, but he's still a capable running back. He's a very good receiving back. And they have some pieces. Their defense, Devin Lloyd, I think he was at the end of the first round last year, has looked pretty dang good as well. He just won Defensive Rookie of the Month.
James Robinson.
I could not think of the name James. Okay. Yeah, him has been very good. But that defense just looks pretty solid too, and they look kind of like a complete team, which given last year, I know Urban Meyer was bad, but I feel like if there was like a anti-coach of the year award, he would have ran away with that. I like he's like there's Nathaniel Hackett, and then there's like Urban Meyer is way below him. It's
Nathaniel
like that bad.
Hackett,
I'm
it's 3 weeks in though.
I mean, Urban Meyer got fired at like week 10 last year, so he may not have that much time.
7 more weeks. He also
Uh,
kicked players, so
that's also fair. But Urban Meyer was a bad coach, and I thought they would improve getting a competent coach, and then like they improved in the offseason. I did not think they would improve that much based on like just the head coach, but they did. And the Eagles are, like I said, one of the best teams in football, if not the best. They look like a complete football team. And I was, it was basically a toss up for who I was going to pick. I did end up picking the Philadelphia Eagles. It's bizarre that the Jaguars turned it around so fast, but I do think the Eagles are a good team. And Jalen Hurts is on that MVP trip right now. Not saying he gets it, but he has looked really, really good. He's looks like a top 10 quarterback in football right now. And so I did pick the Eagles.
okay. So yeah, look, the Eagles look really good, and not just Jalen Hurts, but that entire team looks really good. My only concern for that team is, week 1 they had, I think, was it they had like a 14-point lead, or like maybe even a 17-point lead against the Lions. And the Lions actually came back and put up a good fight, even though Eagles ended up winning. My concern is they're stacking up points in the first half of the game, but are they, do they kind of let their foot off the gas when they really shouldn't? Um, Still very good. They're playing extremely well. They keep up this pace, especially considering their schedule for the rest of the year coming up. There is a very high chance that they might end up being the number 1 seed in the NFC. Is it too early to say that? Maybe. We're only going into week 4. It's only 3 games in. I mean, listen, the Dolphins are 3-0. So maybe we're jumping the gun here, but they are so good. They're too good. But you know what? The higher you go, the harder you fall. And I think Jacksonville Jaguars. This, like, kind of like you said, I kind of went with my gut here, and I just had to go with Jacksonville. I think the coaching is great. I think the entire offense is getting into a rhythm, and I think their defense are actually playing pretty solid. So something tells me to pick Jacksonville Jaguars. I did. We'll see what happens. Maybe the dumbest pick of the week, but we'll see. And Jose totally agrees with you and with the Eagles on this game. So, yeah. Bills at Ravens. Ooh, this was a tough one, man. This was a really tough one. It's my pick, isn't it?
I think so. We'll go with yes, so you don't.
Yeah. So the game is the game's in Baltimore. Bills lost last week. The Ravens, since I think week 1, or I mean, they've looked really, really good actually the last 3 weeks, even though they lost a game, but so did the Bills, but they lost to the undefeated Miami Dolphins. Lamar Jackson, I'm sure the Ravens are now wondering if they should have given him the contract already. But you know what? You messed up. Let's just hope Lamar doesn't get hurt. It's really, man, it's really fun to watch him play. I do have my questions about him quite often, but it's a lot of fun to watch him play. Bills, on the other hand, same thing. I think Josh Allen is so fun to watch play. Once they get the ball rolling on you, this is the Bills I'm talking about, man, they just continue. And I think they had a really bad stinging loss last week, and I personally believe that they're actually gonna, hey, you did it right this time.
I
Good job.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
I think they're gonna come back. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to win the game. I think the Bills are really good. And I think that one bad game and one bad loss, I think too many people are kind of looking at them and counting them off. Ravens are good, even though neither of these quarterbacks or teams in recent years have made a Super Bowl. I still think in tougher situations, I have more faith in Josh Allen to win the game than I do Lamar Jackson. So I think if it comes down to the wire, I think if it comes down to the quarterback having the football, I'd rather have Josh Allen get the ball. And again, I think overall team and vibe, just slightly, I have to give the edge to the Bills. So I had to go with the Bills here.
Yeah, which is very fair. Both of these teams actually lost to the Dolphins. That's what both of their
Oh,
losses
that's
are.
right. They both lost
Uh,
their offense for
the
sure.
Ravens had a huge lead on Miami and then blew it in the fourth quarter. That defense looked bad at the end of that game. Uh, it was so tough for me. Josh Allen was my MVP pick before the season. Lamar Jackson looks like an MVP right now. I'm not saying Josh
You,
Allen doesn't, but
you got to pick one, Hurts or Lamar Jackson. You can't say both of these look like MVPs. No, there's only one
I mean,
MVP.
there's multiple people who look like MVPs. It's just one person who wins it. But they might give it to Aaron Rodgers just because, and even though he didn't deserve it, and it should have went to Cooper Kupp, who had the best receiver season ever. But that's besides the point. We'll stick to this game, and I know a lot of people might not think this is as close as it is because the Bills before last week looked like the most dominant team in football, and then they played like with basically their practice squad against the Dolphins and barely lost. But again, I did trust my gut and I went with the Ravens here. I know that their defense isn't nearly as strong as Buffalo, but Buffalo still is banged up, and the Ravens somehow don't have that injury bug yet. Knock on wood. But Lamar Jackson is playing out of this world. He already has like 10 passing touchdowns, I think, through 3 weeks, and I think he has at least like one or two on the ground as well. He's getting in the end zone a lot. That defense, I know they look bad against Buffalo or against Miami, excuse me, but it's still a solid defense. And I think Kyle Hamilton's going to continue to improve, and I think he's going to be a very, very good safety in the league. And so I just trusted my gut. I'm being a little different here, but I did go with the Baltimore Ravens.
Fair enough. All right. And Jose's with me. And whenever Jose pick the same pick as me and, against you, I'm a little worried. He has some bizarre picks. But you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be worried because he is leading right now in record for the season so far. We're not sure how,
I
but
think
it's
you should be
happening.
more worried if you agree with me because I'm awful at this apparently.
That's
But
fair.
I switched up my game plan and went with the gut, not the better team.
I hope you're proud of that. All right. So Cardinals are traveling to take on the Panthers. Listen, I'm not high on either of these teams. I'm not, and you know this better than anybody. I'm not high on either of these quarterbacks either. Uh, Kyler from time to time looks really, really, really good, and then just kind of forget that he's an NFL quarterback. It seems like Baker Mayfield. I will never trust him with the game on the line ever. I'm sorry, it's just true, and I think he's proven it over and over again. Panthers have not looked super hot this year. And the Cardinals looked very hot against the Raiders, but I can make a case that the Raiders just kind of lost the game rather than the Cardinals win that game. Cardinals played really well, but man, the Raiders made some dumb mistakes losing in that game. Um, Nonetheless, again, listen, this part's very important. We're still in the first half of the season, which means Arizona's going to play good, which means I had to go with Arizona to win the game. Panthers, on the other hand, again, Baker Mayfield, never had much trust in him. Even with McCaffrey, they're not getting it done as much as they probably should be or could be, I guess, however you want to call it. I have to go with the Cardinals on this game. Hey, you pick first.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Kyler Murray ruined the joke. I don't remember if you remember. I think it was like 2 weeks ago when they played the Raiders. I showed the little statistic thing that like on the Call of Duty like double XP weekend, he was like 0 and like 60 something or whatever, and they won and ruined the joke. And it seems like the Raiders are once again being this exact same team they were last year. When I pick them to win, they lose every time, and if I pick them to lose, they're going to win every time. But it ruined the joke, and it kind of made me a little sad. But I don't think either of these teams are very good. I didn't think the Cardinals were a very good team going into the season. I think they have a very weak secondary. I will say, when I was saying that, I did forget about Byron Murphy, so I will take a little bit of blame there. Byron Murphy is a solid cornerback, and like I said, I like their safety group, but outside of the number one corner, very weak. The defensive line is also not great. It's kind of like depending on what kind of Kyler you get. And yes, I know the Cardinals are usually better in the first half, but they haven't even been great like so far this season. So who knows how bad of a team they're going to be in the second half of this season. Probably won't win one the entire second half. But I don't know. Again, gut feeling. I actually went with the Carolina Panthers here. They are coming off a solid win against the New Orleans Saints last week. And my boy Chris Olave, who is the
Division
best
game,
receiver of all time.
Saints are not good.
I get it. Except against the Buccaneers, except this very last time. But the Panthers, honestly, I don't think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think either of these teams are good teams. I think they're very even, which is completely looked over. The Panthers also do a really good job against the Cardinals every time they play for whatever reason. And
except this time they got Baker Mayfield.
I mean, last year they had Cam Newton. So does that really tell you much?
Superman.
They had a decrepit retirement home Cam Newton, and he beat them. He scored like 3 touchdowns against them last year. I think Baker can do well. Baker didn't have a bad game last week. That defense is very good, honestly. I really like their defense. I think if their offense gets it together, honestly, give them a competent head coach, and the Panthers, I think, can be a competitive team competing for a playoff spot. Matt Rule is that bad. The bottom 3 head coaches in the NFL are Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Rule, and then you could either do Cliff Kingsbury or Josh McDaniels. But he's
okay, so you're pretty evened out with the coaching there.
Also fair, yeah. So I'm gonna go with the Panthers in this one.
So you're gonna go with Week 4 Kyler or Baker Mayfield?
I'm gonna go the Panthers. I could be wrong. Trusting my gut. Maybe my record will be better than it has been.
Jose agrees with me. That's all I need. So, best.
I'm about to go 0 for 16 or something.
We'll see. You'll never pick with your gut again. All right.
All analytics after that.
Broncos going to Raiders. Raiders winless so far, and the Broncos have played like they probably should not have won any games so far. We saw a tad glimpse of old school Russell Wilson last week. Aside from that, look, the Raiders are probably my biggest disappointment this year. First of all, I don't know why they went with Josh McDaniels. They had a coach ready to go, and they just didn't do it. But hey, that's water under the bridge, I guess. At this point, it doesn't matter at this point. The Raiders have given away games when they should not have. Right? They play good enough to win games, and then they play bad enough in the second half to lose the games. Broncos, on the other side, I heard they hired a couple of people to help Nathaniel Hackett, read the time on a watch. So hopefully that comes in handy finally, and hopefully he can tell time this week, and we'll see how it goes. So here's the thing. It's a division game. Both of these teams have been such a disappointment. I was higher on the Raiders than most. I was higher on the Raiders than I was on the Broncos. Unfortunately, man, they're killing me, and I'm tired of picking them to win, because I think all 3 weeks they played, I picked them to win, and they've lost all 3 weeks, and I'm not going to do it a 4th week in a row, which more than likely the 4th week is when they might end up coming out with a win. But here's the thing. I think the Broncos are going to improve a lot more than people realize they're going to improve. I think the Broncos, as bad as they've looked, they have a very overlooked defense, it seems like, because all the attention is on Hackett and Russell Wilson and the offense and how they're not putting up a lot of points to win the games. Okay, they're not putting up a lot of points and they're winning games. Guess what? That means your defense is doing their job, and they're doing it well, and they're doing it good. And right now, the Raiders, they're not doing a very good job. So I had to go with the Broncos to win this game. I think they're going to pull one out. And I think they're going to put up like 24, 28 points in this game too.
So this might be good news for you. I did not pick the Broncos. I actually went with the Raiders in this one. I think both of these teams have been probably the 2 biggest disappointments in the NFL in the past decade. This was supposed to be the greatest division of all time, and they have a really good team, the team that has all of the injuries, and then whatever the hell the Raiders and Broncos are. I will say the Broncos, their defense has benefited not playing very good teams. You know, they played the Seahawks week 1 with Geno Smith. They played the Texans week 2, which I like Davis Mills, but he hasn't been great this year. And then they played last week. My mind is blanking out. The 49ers,
49ers. Yeah.
who the 49ers have not looked good this year, except when they played the Seahawks, which I guess everyone looks good when they play the Seahawks, except the Broncos. Uh, so I don't know what they are. And then with the Raiders, they played the Chargers week 1, which was expected. The Chargers were healthy back then, so they lost the game. Makes sense. I could accept that.
But that was
They
probably like their best game too. That's what makes me sad.
also fair. I mean, they should have beat the Cardinals. They blew that game. That's had maybe Josh McDaniels isn't even worse coach than Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know. So they didn't look great there. And then last week they played the Titans, who I think are a relatively bad team, and they lost. So it's basically which the lesser of two, lesser of two evils, but instead of evils, it's just the lesser of two garbage teams. The Broncos offense looks like the Bears of the Matt Nagy era, but not even the first year where they looked like a disguised good team. It's like the Matt Nagy era where I like literally would take naps during the games because it was so unbearable to watch. The Raiders at least put up points. They just don't really stop anyone. The Broncos don't allow points because they've played bad teams, but their offense does not move the ball at all. They scored 11 points, and they got 2 of those off of a safety against the 49ers to win. So I went with the Raiders on this one.
All right. And hey, look at that. Jose picked the Raiders too. And look, here's the thing. I think this is one of those games where I'm picking the Broncos to win, but I will actually be happy if the Raiders pull out a win and get some momentum going because, man, I still really like Derek Carr. And I think that team, if they can get together, can do a lot. They overcame a lot last year. And this year, you just got to overcome Josh McDaniels. That's it. So, all right, moving on. So, good old Bill Belichick without his quarterback, who's day to day, according to Bill Belichick, is he's gonna have probably have the backup quarterback going against Aaron Rodgers. Is it me or you?
I think it should be me. To keep this short, Mac Jones, even if when he has played this year, hasn't looked very good. He looks like he's definitely regressed a little bit. And the Patriots, I think, are debatably up in contention for the worst team in football so far this year. On the other side, the Packers, I'm not as high on. I do think they are a good team. I don't think they're like an elite, scary team to go against. But they're still better than the Patriots, Mac Jones or no Mac Jones. So I'm going with Green Bay here.
Fair enough. So I don't know if you saw both Belichick and Rodgers in press conferences talking about each other.
Wait, Bill Belichick and Aaron Rodgers? No, I did not.
Not to each other, but about each other. They were asked about their opponents that they're playing. Rodgers said Belichick is probably, I think he said he's the greatest coach. And Bill Belichick, usually you ask him about anybody, the answer is, oh, he does this well. He's good. He's a great. That's it. Man, Bill Belichick actually said so many great things about Aaron Rodgers. It almost felt like they were just telling us if we were playing together, we probably would have like 12 Super Bowl rings right now. I don't think that's the case, but here's the thing. First of all, Patriots are playing a backup quarterback. More than likely, it's going to be Brian Hoyer, which I don't think it's going to be a step down necessarily from Mac Jones. I think Belichick will put some defensive schemes together, especially considering Belichick being Belichick will look at last week and look at what Green Bay did in the first half and then what the Tampa defense did in the second half to stop Green Bay. And I'm sure he's good enough to do that. And he's gonna be able to stop Aaron Rodgers from scoring, I would say more than 30 on them, which I know, or maybe even 24 on them, which I know 24 is not a bad, points system or point, spread to get, but man, 24 points for Aaron Rodgers is something you often see him do. But unfortunately, I don't think the Patriots offense is good enough to put up that 24 points or 20 points or whatever it is. So I had to also go with Green Bay. So did Jose. Here's the thing. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than we think. And I think this game's going to be more defensive than offensive than we think. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. And I think Packers are going to pull off a win just like they did against Tampa last week. But I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be closer than people realize. But we'll see. Chiefs are traveling to Tampa. Hopefully everyone in Tampa stays safe after the crazy hurricane that hit. And we're not 100% sure what the plans for the games are yet, but as of right now, it's probably still gonna go on. So we're gonna make our picks. And I think, do I go here first?
Yes,
I do. Listen, I don't need to talk much just to tell you who I picked. I don't bet against Brady. I just don't. I will just say this much. So this is probably the most biased pick from my end. There's no reason for me to believe the Bucks are actually going to pull off a win here, except for me being biased and picking Bucks to win. That being said, more just looking into the future, maybe I saw the game very differently than a lot of people did. Last week against Green Bay, yes, the game they lost, that's the most confidence I've ever felt in the Buccaneers. I don't want to get into too many crazy details right now, but I think the way that defense stepped up and is playing, the way Brady stepped up in the fourth quarter, and that offense stepped up without those receivers. And I think that offensive line is starting to come along. And I think they're starting to protect him. Again, not as great as he was protected 2 years ago, but he's starting to be protected a lot better than you would imagine how almost everybody on that offensive line being you, how they would be. I had to go with the Bucks here. Again, biased pick, but in the long run, man, I feel really good about the Buccaneers. I think they're going to be a great team, like by week 7, week 8.
I partially agree with you. I do think in the long run the Bucks will be fine, but they are at a point where they're very, very banged up, and I do think the Chiefs have one of the best teams and best offenses in the league. I think their offense is much, much better than Green Bay's is. So I actually did go with the Chiefs here. I know you don't bet against Brady, but I feel like this is one of those weeks where it's not that dumb of an idea to bet against Brady.
Okay. Ooh, that Jose's picking the same man his age. I don't know. Nobody knows how old Jose is. We're just gonna leave it at that. It's a mystery. And at this point, I don't think I ever want to find out. I think we're just gonna leave it at a mystery. So but yes, he picked Brady. The only time he picked against Brady, care to guess when it was?
Super Bowl?
Yeah, against the Chiefs.
So that means the Chiefs are going to win this one, right?
Yeah, probably. More than likely. It's gonna be like a 31-9 game, but the Chiefs this time. So all right, Rams or 49ers. I believe that's the last game.
Given we don't have much time to talk about this, I'll kind of wrap it up. Representing Cooper Kupp, the boy. Love Cooper Kupp. I think he's still probably the best receiver in football just because Justin Jefferson hasn't taken that step forward I expected. The 49ers look awful. I mean, I thought they lost to the Bears because of the whole monsoon thing. But even after that, they did play really well against Seattle. But again, Seattle is garbage. Then they played the Broncos, who I think are one of the worst teams in the league so far this year, and looked pathetic against them. It literally hurt my eyes to watch that game. The Rams haven't looked great either, but they have at least put up points on the board, and they look much, much better than the 49ers. So I'm being biased and picking my second team, the Rams, and I also think the 49ers just aren't great.
So I kind of agree. I don't think the 49ers are that great, but the 49ers does have a history of giving it to the Rams. The only game Sean McVay's lost after leading at half was actually against the 49ers last year. And as bad as they looked this last week, I think they're going to tighten up a little bit. I think Jimmy G's going to bounce back. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I think the 49ers are playing at home. It's going to give the Rams some trouble. Just like you, I kind of went with my gut here. And against all odds, I had to go with the 49ers. And for whatever reason, Jose picked the 49ers. But anyway, that's the last of our slides. Thank you so much. Check out our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and our Instagram page. We just went over an hour, but it's okay.
I was trying my best.
It's all right. But until then, that's all we had. Do you have anything to add?
Not really. I kind of blurted everything else at the end to try and get under an hour, so I kind of have no thoughts left.
All right. Well, listen, tune back in and we will come back with our results and our week 5 picks in a week. Until then, see you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day.